Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we'll be talking about the eliminated trainees from iland2. We're talking about the 6 that were eliminated in the last episode of Island and that didn't make it into part 2. Without further ado, let's begin. Yay! The first eliminated of the night was Yuna, and she got very few votes, 14,000 Korean votes and 70,000 international votes, which isn't a lot if you compare it to the girls that made it the top 6. I think everyone knew she would be eliminated. She was a very talented dancer, but she didn't have a lot of screen time, no standout moments. During the episode itself, they usually cut her parts on the performance. She was part of yuna team. She was the main dancer, so she was in charge of the dance break and she was in the center during it, but they cut off all of that part. She was also in the unit battle, which I thought she did pretty good, but she didn't advance into Island. Without ever going to Island and not having showing much, she was doomed, which is unfortunate because I can see her being talented, but I don't have much to comment on it apart from I really liked her dance break and and I thought she was really fierce in the unit battle. I don't remember her from anything else, so that's that. Jiwon was also eliminated, surprisingly, after all of the screen time that she had. Well, it wasn't really surprising because there were a lot of girls that had to make it into the top 6, but I do feel like part of me was just expecting her to maybe make it in because of the amount of screen time she had and by being a 6th pick. But I guess everyone saw that she wasn't really cut out to debut right now. She was a ballet dancer. I don't know why she gave up ballet to do this. I guess it's a cute side quest. But when I look at her, I always think that if she was my daughter and her whole entire life she did ballet, she went into this really nice ballet academy, and then she tells me, well, I'm just gonna give everything up to go to a survival show to debut as an idol, I would be very skeptical. So hopefully she finds success, be it in ballet, being in debuting in another group. I do see her potential. I thought she was a fun character to the whole series more than an actual member that should debut. But I mean, in most survival shows we always have these contestants that aren't necessarily very talented, but they show growth and they usually have been training for a really short period and they end up making it to the debut because either their story was really compelling or they have insane visuals. But in this case, she got very few votes, both internationally and in Korea, and she didn't make it. Moving on into 12th place, we had Seoul. And so made me a little sad that she was eliminated. I didn't really see her making it into part 1 because I didn't think she was popular. And the moments where she was highlighted was really early on in the season. So I thought she wouldn't really have a chance. I really feel like she was very talented and she reminded me a lot of Yeeun. Just not only the looks, but also the power when performing. But obviously she's still very young. She's only 15. So she has a long way to go and many opportunities ahead of her, so I'm sure we won't see the last of our mini Yeeun. But I was still pretty sad about it because although I don't think she is the most talented trainee, I saw a lot of potential in her and she delivered pretty good performances, and it just felt nice to watch her because she really enjoyed being on stage, and I guess I like those kind of trainees that show me that they love what they do. Our next eliminated trainee was jiwon. She was in 11th place and still with pretty low votes from Korea especially. She was talented but didn't have any good portrayals during the show, so there wasn't a lot of chances for her to make it in either. She did a really good job in Bad Boy and was able to show herself during her performances. She was in the dance team for unit battle, which I think it's always a good thing if you're in a very small unit because we're able to see more from you. Even if they give you 0 screen time, we can focus on you during the performance. But there isn't much to say because there wasn't much shown by mnet. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to her. Also, the fact that there were two jiwons and one jiwon made me very confused because I didn't learn the name of all the trainees. It was kind of hard picking them up. But she was the better jiwon because the other jiwon was the main vocalist in Bad Boy, and oh my gosh, that was very bad. In 10th place, we have Lingling, which was a surprise for both the contestants that were there, as is the audience home. Everyone thought she was gonna make it. Even her herself, she was smiling throughout the eliminations because she was confident she was gonna make it, and she really didn't. I think there are many points to this. The voting system being 6-pick definitely held her back a lot. The fact that Korean votes are weighted also held her back. The third thing is I think her fan base was very loud, and they did win a lot of like meta balls and stuff, but maybe they weren't as big as we thought because they were really loud, but they didn't really show much. I didn't think she would make it after seeing that the voting system was a 6-pick, because if your 1-pick is really good, you get held back a lot by 6-pick. For the general audience, they probably have 4 favorites or 3 favorites that you can vote for, and the other ones would be people they see a lot during the show. In Lingling, she did had some moments where she kind of grew in the audience. At least she grew on me in her performances. She did a really good job in Rain on Me and in the last performance, which was I Will Always Love You. She did a great job in both of them. So she kind of grew at me, and I was like, okay, she's gonna make it to part 2. That's fine. But then I feel like those fan bases which are very loud and which are like, oh my gosh, guaranteed that this person will go, and it's not someone that's super popular in Korea, I always have my doubts if they're gonna make it or not. This fear is just due to Gross Planet 999. But regardless, I think this whole show was kind of a phenomenon to her. Like, she can do so much now after this that even if she becomes an influencer or a YouTuber or a vlogger, she's gonna make money because she got a whole batch of people following her, and maybe someone will scout her. But it kind of feels surreal, her passage throughout the show, because she had 0 screen time before, and then she had a little bit of screen time, and then the judges said, oh, you are good, nah. You know what? The thing that made me think that she was gonna make it was when they were deciding the producers versus the girls that we would have to vote in. One of the judges said, it's hard for miracles to happen, but you, my dear, might be a miracle, or something like that. It wasn't exactly in those words, but it was like that, and I was like, maybe Mnet is accepting her. But they definitely didn't, because if they wanted her, they wouldn't have made it a 6-pick voting system. Also, I think it's so funny that during the recordings, no one really talked about her. No one really batted an eye to her. She didn't have a lot of screen time. But now the girls know how popular they are. And everyone was expecting her to be 1st place or 2nd place. And everyone was shocked that she was very low. I was also shocked that she was this low. But I guess we were just expecting a lot from her fandom. There might be voters that are more quiet. And then again, she's definitely not one of the contestants that the general audience would vote for, because she didn't have enough standout moments. We paid attention to her because we knew how popular she was online, not because of the edit or because of the show itself. And sometimes when girls are getting really popular, I feel like our first thought is, why is she so popular when she doesn't have any screen time? So you kind of nitpick what she does. I think she was a fine performer though, and after seeing her recent performances, I was really fine with her making it into part 2, but she didn't. For her to be a Bahi, she needs to have a huge fandom that is there to vote for her. In 9th place, we had Minsol. Minsol was someone that was always there, but never there. Like, she was always in the performance with the popular girls, so the girls that get the most screen time, and because of that, she was always seen here and there, but she never had a moment for herself. I was kind of sad that in the vocal unit battle where she performed with Jiwon, all the praise went to Jiwon and nobody really batted an eye to her. It was pretty sad because she did a good job. She did exactly what she was supposed to. Her vocals were really good, but she doesn't really stand out. She didn't have screen time, and although she's talented and she has shown us that she's talented, I didn't think she was gonna make it. And honestly, 9th place, I think that's pretty high for what I was expecting from her. But I mean, she surpassed Lingling, and that's itself a feat of its own. The 6th pick didn't only pull Lingling back and eliminated her, but it also eliminated Park Yeeun, who I thought would be much more popular in Korea. She didn't have a lot of votes in Korea, so we also overestimated her. Park Yeeun was really our surprise. I think she and Chaeyeon had very similar storylines where they weren't training for long and they weren't good, but then they were able to move past that, but they were still very behind in terms of talent and in terms of delivery and skill in comparison to the other girls. Initially, I didn't want either of them to make it, but I kind of warmed up to Yeeun. I mean, obviously the edit manipulated me enough for that, because even though I do think she has a lot of work to do before she debuts, I was also kind of like, oh, I'm okay with her making it to part 2. But I think if she made it to part 2, I think she would definitely be debuting. I mean, maybe she wouldn't because the Korean votes were really low, and maybe they would prioritize other girls that they want more in their lineup, and there would be like this big discrepancy in skill between those girls that trained for 5-6 years that have very prominent skills, like they're great vocalists, great dancers, great performers, and Yeeun doesn't really bring much to the table. She doesn't have a skill of her own besides her visuals. I don't think this is the last time we see her, because the show doesn't have a really big audience in Korea, but she was mildly popular, so I do think out of all of the girls that were eliminated now, Yeeun has the best chance to go into another company, even if it's like a mid-size, maybe a smaller company. I think we'll definitely be seeing her debut this year, next year, who knows. But I do think we're gonna be seeing her debut. And in 7th place, and our last eliminated trainee, this broke my heart. I was cheering for Yui. She was one of my favorites. She was definitely on my top 7 before the eliminations, and I was cheering for her. Every time she came up on the screen, I was like, please be safe, please be safe, please, please, please. And then the fact that she didn't make it by a really, really, really small amount of votes make me just die inside. Apart from that, she was tortured by Mnet. No one can convince me otherwise. What they did to her was just mean. Plain mean. Having her go up like 3 times, 4 times, and giving us and her the hope that she would be safe and she would have another chance to show herself and maybe debut and be set. And she was eliminated. That was cruel. I was really cheering for her. I think she showed so much. Out of everyone, I think she showed the most versatility. Not the most versatility in terms of concept, but she is the one that showed me that she can do the most, because she was in Whistle and she was a rapper and she did great. She was the center for I Will Always Love You. She also did a pretty good job there as a center, and she did an amazing unit dance battle. So she was really good in all of her performances, and her Bag Jeans intro stage was the best that there was. So that's that. So I was really, really, really sad that she didn't make it. I voted for her because I also feel like she kind of fit the image of the other girls. I mean, we saw her in a group with Soojung, Jimin, and I think she kind of fits the aesthetic, the looks, and what I am visualizing, what their concept would be. So I feel like she fits that. So it was really a shame that she didn't make it. And I'm praying for the Black Label to just grab her and debut on their own group, even though their own group I think is kind of like finalized and done and is gonna debut any of these days. But I feel like she has a really good essence, like a good vibe. She is a really, really great performer, and more than that, I feel like she has the vibe that goes well with what Teddy produces, because we saw her kill it in Whistle. So I do want the Black Label to snatch her. I mean, the Black Label group is not necessarily going to be produced by Teddy, while this one will. So that's really sad, because honestly, she was the only one that showed us that she can be produced by Teddy, because the other girls with the Blackpink song, terrible. But I mean, I Will Always Love You, I think Teddy also produced that. Point is, I'm sad about her. So I hope she debuts soon, and I hope to see more of her. I feel like I always cheer for the people that are going to be eliminated, so I'm kind of cursed. But it felt really bad, not only because she was my favorite, because what they did was mean. So because of what they did was so mean and it caused like this outrage, I'm praying that it isn't only to cause people to talk about the show, but also because they want them to see her, so she debuts with the Black Label. You know what I mean? Not only a propaganda for Mnet and Island itself, but also because Yui will be debuting soon. But anyways, this was my thoughts on each of the trainees that were eliminated. I'll also make a video on the trainees that survived, and we'll be talking about all of them and my opinions. Feel free to comment down below your opinions on the girls. Did anyone that you really liked not make it? And what do you hope for them in the future? Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!